as it was. Anyway, it's record. Just give me 1 sec. You can go to the stream or stay there. It doesn't matter. I prefer being here that you being here. My English is awful today. So you can ask questions and propose what you want to hear. Okay, let me just see. Okay, the audio is working. 1 second, almost done. Okay, sorry about the stream. We had some difficulty today, and I will continue the stream as I was doing it in Somnium Space Discord. I was with few people. Okay, you can always talk in Discord. You can come in the voice chat in Discord and talk to me. I'm very open to hear you. I will feel less alone. So today I'm working with a project that I call Universal Button. And before starting it, I was going through the basic of Bolt because I think it's important to repeat as many times as possible because all those things are complex and there's a lot of stuff to know. Okay, let's continue. Good. So I was explaining how my teleporter was working. So I think I discovered recently is very interesting is this function. You know what? I'm just thinking about something very fast because all those things are very complicated. I don't know how much people understand. So can I ask you questions? Is someone willing to answer?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So you're doing on trigger enter, the trigger is the collider, then you're doing transform get root, and then like what I would do is like put it into a variable, and then do you do get component in children, and then you get the rigid body?
I done it differently this time. I use the find function. This
Yeah,
function, there is two find function in Unity. One that you should never use until you are very, very sure you don't have any choice, or this one. The first one is a global search. It's like going on Google search and doing, okay, I want banana, you know? It will have to check on all the internet. This is very heavy in here. So the function, sorry, game object. Oh, if you want a tricks, you should learn how to use the search in Bolt. So I can just type game since I know everything is just called game object here and find. Okay, never mind. Oh, find. I'm sorry. Okay, game object find. This doesn't need game object. It will look for a game object name in everything in the scene. Everything. It's very long and can be very heavy. You can have a drop of FPS for half a second, you know. So it's very you need to be sure you need that. And other bad thing it do, find will only find the first game object with a name. So if you have been called 30 game object, it will just find the first. So it's not very useful, to be honest. Instead, there is transform.find. Find. It's my tricks to, you know, I know there's probably nothing called transform. So you see, there's not that much stuff called transform. So I just type trans and find. And this thing is different. First of all, it take a transform in input. I will just explain to you what is a transform very fast. Let's create a game object. Call game object. Okay. I will explain to you something very simple. It's very important that you understand this. In Unity, every single thing is a game object. A game object is like a folder. It's not very different. It can contain stuff. So if you compare to a folder can contain other folder, and a folder can contain files, and the files are very the thing that matter, you know. So first of all, game object, that is, we can call it a container, doesn't matter, just call it a game object. That's how it is. So by default, every single thing in Unity contain a transform, let's say file, but we call it component. Let's use a real name, component. So a game object can contain two things: components, that is, it's like the functions, and other game object. So for example, if I put this game object 1 inside my game object here, it's like a folder. By default, everything contains a transform. You cannot even, I think you cannot even remove it. Yeah, it's impossible to remove. So the transform, that is a component, important to understand, even if you cannot remove it. It gives basic information like position of the game object, rotation and scale. And also it can tell you which parent it is and which child. When I say parent and child, it's very simple. For game object 1, we can call it a child. And game object here, it's a coding way of talking, because the parent will always contain child, and the child can be the parent of, it's like a family tree, right? You see? So this child is the parent of this one, like folders. That's how it is in programming. So this one is the child of parent 1, and yeah, yeah, look. So this one is child of parent, and is parent of child 2. You see? So this is important. So transform component also contain information about hierarchy. For example, this component have no parent. So if I take the component transform and I ask who is the parent, it will say none, because there's no parent. Everything here is on the maximum level. But I can ask the parent, who is your child's, with the transform. So transform is very important. Transform is for position, rotation, scale, and hierarchy. It's all the thing you can do, and probably more. But there's no like speed, acceleration. That doesn't exist for game object. It's just position. Okay, so there's a function I love with transform, because like I say, a component is like a function. It's really a bunch of things that you can do. I don't know how to explain it other way. And everything you can add here, a component, is the same. A bunch of things, it's like another function. You add the function of this game object to be a rigid body. You add the function to be, I don't know, box collider. You add the function to this game object to have a box collider. And normally those components cannot move because the reference is the transform. Sometimes it's not exactly the case. Anyway, I don't want to confuse everyone. Those are basic knowledge. It's very important to master. But don't worry. If you don't understand, it's fine. I truly believe learning is just the entry level of knowledge. The rest you have to master it by yourself, by testing, by trying to understand by yourself. It's very important. So don't mind if you don't understand everything right now. Okay, component, game object, very simple. So one of the function I love, I call this component here. For example, in this exact case, I have a fake player here. This is a fake player. I tried to reproduce a player. It looked like me, right? So, first of all, his name is close to a real player. Player, this character, the name of the player, this player character again, a space, this character, and a number, this again. For example, for me, it will be De Nevro. I don't remember my name. Let's say that. You see? This will be my player. So I made a fake player to look like a real one. After that, in the hierarchy of a real player, you have control and motion. My fake player is not, it's 75% complete. There's some game object missing, but I have the main one. So I have,
Question.
yes,
Question. So you know how each user gets like not a username but a number,
yeah.
right? Is there any way to access that? So, for example, you can get specific users'
Yo,
numbers and then
yo.
activate based on that? No?
I have another question at the same time. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Been me.
Yeah. What were
Okay.
you saying?
Yeah, sorry. So the easiest way will be to go take it here. I mean, it's there. You can go take it here with a string thingy, you know. But no, I did not find another way. I did not look for it, but I will say it's gonna be complicated. Since, okay, in my opinion, UltraLord, you will need to go look for Somnium space script. But the problem is, since you don't have access to those scripts in your Unity scene here, it will be very hard to find which component has this information. I will not recommend to play with Somnium space script. First of all, they can change. You should try to avoid playing with something that could change, like dependency of stuff. And it may be very long and complicated to find those information. So considering we have it here, I guess we can get it there somehow. I don't even know if it's unique. I guess it is, but I hope, yeah.
Also, another question. I noticed on the find transform, you're looking for a specific one with a name. In string, you have a name. Like, uh,
1 second, where was I?
yeah, yeah.
Teleport, yeah. Okay, I was about to talk about it. So the transform component of a game object, there's a function called find. This one is not global. It will just find the child, direct child. So it's not super heavy. Normally we try to avoid any find and any get component function because they are heavy. I mean, not that heavy, but if you have 1000 per second, that start to be a lot, and you'll CPU usage a lot. But sometimes we don't have a choice. And since this function is only execute very rarely, it should be fine. And look at this. This is interesting. This find function have something we can do. Note. This function, we can give it a path. So since I'm on the root, I call find control. Okay, control. And then I said movement. Movement, okay. Body representation. You see, it look like folders. Body representation, okay. Internal. Rigid body. This I discovered by a lot of tests, by the way.
Is this simply just to test, or is it the actual one? Like, if I wanted to actually make this work, I would just get component in the children of the variable.
This work right now, by the way. This work right now, because
so that's the actual name. If I have to use that?
Yeah. Those are the actual names.
Cool.
Yeah, and I, in my opinion, I think this is the best way to find an exact object, because there's no other way, I think.
So
And do it.
how do I? Yeah.
If you had, okay, you could have done this instead. Before that, with my old code, I was taking the root object, okay, and I will do find component in child in all the player, my player. By the way, player, your avatar locally is a gigantic mess of a lot of game object. There are probably hundreds and hundreds of game object inside this. So any global search inside this is very tremendously heavy and long. So doing a fine component inside all this could create some inconsistency in FPS. I'm not sure if it's that heavy, but I would not recommend it. So I could have done fine component, rigid body, and there's like 4 or 5 if I remember. I can check my documentation.
How did you get the name? Did you
Oh,
set up a text mesh?
I did a lot
thing
of tests. Yeah, with text mesh. By the way, those panel here are my test panel. I can show you my just for fun. I have some doc here. So I did some tests with Collider looking for information like this. This is my scan of all the avatar. Look at this. All this text is one avatar.
It's beautiful.
It's gigantic.
Beautiful.
I tried to read it all, but it's just too big. I did all. This is my documentation for left controllers, for example. So I detected rigid body for VR and PC. I will make this public very soon. So we see that in a player you have 4 rigid body in VR and you have 2 in PC. Colliders. In VR, you have all those colliders inside your avatar. Colliders is something that you can. Colliders is a target for collision. Rigid body is like a source. Okay, sorry, I thought my phone was ringing. And for example, if you see collider here. One sec. I think I get myself confused. Detect by trigger. Never mind this. Anyway, in 2D2, all the colliders, and stuff like this. This is all the transform in just one hand.
We can access these, like
Yeah,
using
but
that and then putting the actual string.
yeah, I did it twice right now.
Amazing.
So first, I access the rigid body of the avatar to teleport it. Sadly, teleporting only works because of a glitch I accidentally used. So the trigger of the teleportation, I will just check fast if I have question. Good, sorry. So the trigger of my teleporter is on terrain, not on trigger. It's weird, but it's part of the glitch. Without this, it will teleport me to the target here. I will be stuck there forever. Somehow. So how the glitch work? It's first teleport me up. I don't know why. And I fall on the thing and I teleport again. And now the glitch work. I'm teleported to some place. That right now is here, I think. So yeah, for now it's the glitch, but we can teleport. It's already nice.
That's amazing.
So here, okay, I can explain to you very fast my script. So I have this path. I do find. I find the rigid body because I have the path here. I check if the rigid body is null. If it's null, I do an error. I just change the color to blue. If it's not null, null mean it's empty. There's nothing. It's important, but because if you don't do that, the script will crash. Instead of trying to make the perfect script, always try to make a script that you know there will be errors. This way, if it crashes, you will have something to tell you that it's crashed instead of what's happening, you know? Then I do another check. I make sure the thing that enter in collision with the area is called Character Controller. This I will show you. Oops, my bad, I clicked there. This is just a script I made, very small. It's detecting a string inside another, very simple. Character Controller is a part of my fake avatar. It's just beside of the rigid body. It's a... I think it's capsule collider, something like this. Not sure. The reason why I do that is because there is weird collider sometimes that can enter in collision with this without even being there. And if you are 2D too, the logic is different. But right now I only teleport VR. I did not try yet to teleport 2D, so because the 2D avatar is made differently. Okay, so I detect that the thing that interact with this box is that. Sorry. Then it's simple. I just rigid body. 1 sec. Oh yeah. The rigid body I called before. It's first a transform, so I have to convert to game object. Sadly, I had to do get component. Okay, so just recap very fast. I found my game object. I found the game object. I found the game object that have a transform. That the game object is called rigid body. So I found this one, but it's still a transform at this point when I look for it. So I have to. I will tell you something very fast. When you see transform, when you see game object, and when you see component, you can rotate between them. If you have a component somewhere in your script, you can right now you can get. Let's do it. Okay, a component a component is the generic way of saying. For example, rigid body is a component, transform is a component. It's the generic one component. It's just to show you how it works. So any component you can do get game object. Any component you can do get transform. Any game object, any transform you can do get game object. Okay, recap again. When you have a game object, you remember when I said transform is a default component? It's so default that, and you know that it's always there that you can access directly. So if you have a game object in your script, you can get the transform directly without searching for it because you know it's there. When you have a transform in your script, you can get the game object directly because those two are linked together. And in theory, a transform is a component. When you have any component, you can get its game object directly. So this is direct call. But if I want my rigid body from a game object, this doesn't exist. You cannot get a rigid body from a game object. You have to do game object get component. I will explain to you why. So let's say I have this game object randomly. Okay, no, maybe one that have something inside. When you have a game object, it's so generic that you never know in advance what is inside. So I cannot do get rigid body. First of all, there can be multiple of it because you can have multiple. Some component can be duplicate. And secondly, you are not even sure it's there, and there's no direct way to access it. So you have to do a get component. It's like a search. So any game object, if you want to access something that is not a transform, you have to do a search. So, for example, you could have 1,000 component in this game object. So to get the rigid body, you will have to do the search, get component, and find it inside. So this is another way of coding that is, you have to do it with care. You have to do it only if you are sure it's the only way. Doing all the time get component is just not a good way of coding. Because by adding all those latencies, those heavy process. When you have at tons, when you do 1,000 per second, 10,000, it start to be it start to be very very heavy compared to do something that is equivalent. Sometimes what we do is we do it once instead, because normally when we have a script, we will always affect the same component. So at the start function of your script, you do the get components once and you store it in a variable. For example, all this is very abstract, so I will stop there, but it's fine if you start by coding this way, it's fine. You can learn to optimize later, but it's just to teach you a little the good ways of coding. Good. So since when I search for my rigid body, it's transform.fine. You see here the output of this function. It's 3 axes. I can open this window. Oh, by the way, window, graph inspector, window, variable. It's to bolt window very useful. There's 2 ways of accessing it. First of all, you click here. Well, mine is already there. You can enlarge this window here. The 2 will pop there. Or you can double click here. It's very long to work. Yeah. So you have those 2 windows, very useful. So I click on this, and I see the description. Find a child by N and return it. N is name of the child to be found. Input the target object. This input have to be, I mean, in what content in what you are searching for this game object, for this thing. It's in a transform. Target of input, and the output, we see the type. We see the output is a transform. So if I have a transform and I want to get the rigid body, I first convert it to, I first take the game object of this transform. Transform.gameObject here. And then I execute gameObject dot get component rigid body. You see? Sorry if it's a little confusing, but yeah.
This is amazing. This is really, really amazing.
And don't worry, if you are often here the Sunday, I will probably repeat all those every time. And now that I have the rigid body that I want to move, I do rigid body dot position set. It's just implicit, and I set the position. Normally it was supposed to be that, but I just put it manually to be sure. I mean, I was trying to find why I was stuck, but the reason why it was not why I was stuck, but why it was working the first time I did it, and it was because of a glitch. Because I forget to put this on the trigger layer. Somehow terrain is better.
Does it work using the character controller you have in your test scene?
Oh, it doesn't matter, because there is if my trigger area is on terrain, there is always 3 objects that can be detected in the avatar. Let's return on documentation. One sec. It's those trees. Okay. Okay, so when my avatar enter in a trigger area that is on the terrain layer, I will detect all those trees. Character controller, capsule collider, and example avatar. Example avatar, in fact, there is 2, because each hand, don't ask why those names are those names. Each hand have a rigid body or a collider, I'm not sure, that is called example avatar. And the avatar contained those two. So I was like, character collider or capsule collider, doesn't matter. Anyway, if you enter inside this, they will all be detected. So it doesn't matter. So if you understood well, it means my script is called for time. You understand? Because when my avatar go inside, there is 4 item that will trigger this script. Because I have this area, and on trigger enter, on anything enter inside that is on the right layer. So that's why I do this check here. Character controller for, I mean, I just want this to be executed once. So I just pick one of the thing that goes inside.
Can you show us the super unit a little bit more? The one where
Oh,
you find the
yeah,
character control.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain first what is a super unit. Okay, let's say I want a clean code. Okay, I want a clean code. So sometimes I duplicate so much the same thing again and again that I want it to be more clean. I will start by this one. So you will understand. After I will go on this one. So this is a super unit I call print line. When I go inside, it take a string and the line, they concatenate it together. So it take the first string and it add the second one, and at the end of those 2 strings, it add a new line character, and it output the string. So you have 2 string input. I will show you an example. Let's say console. Okay, so it take those two string and it will combine them together, giving something like this. Console starting application, for example.
So what's the point of doing this?
Because I want to avoid, I want to make my code clear, and since I don't care what this do, you know, what is important is what I mean. It's not, I don't care what each block do. What I care is the function of those group of blocks. It's easier to read. It's easier to read.
What's going on?
Okay, okay. I will just recap. There's 2 reasons. First of all, it's easier to read. Second of all, I can duplicate this.
Yeah, I know, but what's happening in the actual teleportation? Like,
Oh, I can show.
You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
What's going on here? Yeah.
It's the same thing again. First of all, I have 2 string input. I do string compare. In your case, I make sure the output is equal to 0. That means that the 2 strings are identical, and my output is 2 branch. So the code move it go there, and if the 2 strings are equal, it go this way. If the 2 strings are not equal, it go this way. It's like a, you know, the branch. Ranch.
Oh, so
yeah. So it's like this. Look, it's like this, but instead of boolean, it's 2 string.
Yeah. So and the 2 strings, it's looking for character controller, and the second string is the game object name.
Yeah.
It's comparing those. Right. Cool.
Game object that I've collide on the trigger enter. I'm starting to think if you need a rigid body to enter inside this. I'm not sure anymore.
Don't you? Isn't that how the triggers work?
I have to make sure of this. I will have to add test. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter right now. So if it's false, my error is just turning this red, so I know there is something wrong. I have a color code. Red, green, and blue. Blue is like that doesn't matter. Anyway, I have this too. This is debug text to show on my console. Oh, I can show you. Don't underestimate how important it is to make a code easy to read for you and others for sure, but first of all for you. So when my fake avatar go there, By the way, he won't teleport for some reason, but I know why. Okay, first, collider name, example avatar. Something is wrong here. Player fake 000. That's good. If it's red, it means that. Oh, character controller. I guess there's no rigid body inside. Character controller. Rigid body. Okay, let's try again. Oh. I mean, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's working in game. One of the things you have to remember is this is execute 4 times. So the red and the code, it's the 4th time that I've been execute. So it's not in order. It's one of the problem with my debug system. It's not very that much useful. So
Tried 2 people teleporting at the same time.
yeah, it's completely possible. Don't forget, Unity game is one thread. Everything here is one. Every single code here is one thread. It means that you have only one, let's say, one instance that is moving on every script. So it's impossible that 2 things do something at the same time, because everything is everything is done one by one. So if there is 2 players entering in the same nanosecond in this area, they will still be executed one after the other. So they avoid both teleport. This is one of the reason why it's easy to make a game heavy, because everything is single thread like this. You can do multiple thread, but it's complicated, and I think Unity will do some weird logic to transform single thread in multi-thread. I won't go further because I have no idea how it works. But normally it's fine. Normally it's enough. Okay, where was I? Yeah, teleport. I think that's it for teleportation. I can very fast show you this test. It's very fun. This test adds something in your hand, but I think everyone have did it in the past. So again, collider get game object get transform get root, root. I'm surprised it worked, because this is wrong. Anyway, so transform, find, and now I'm looking for UI laser left.
Denevro, just a question. Why is it wrong?
Because this output a game object and it should be a transform. So it seems that you can convert automatically, maybe. I'm not sure. So maybe get, maybe just this. Normally just this should be fine, but I don't want to break my test. So anyway, I'm looking for this exact item. I was trying to find the lasers when you target the tablet. I found the lasers, but it's unusable. So I took the parent, the direct parent of lasers, that is UI laser, and I put my my default cube there. Where's my default cube? Oh, it's invisible. I put this. Oh, where is it? Oh yeah, I put this bar inside the laser parent, and it's funny because it appears exactly as if you were holding a stick. I could have used like you do to allow that Encore, please. Which one is right?
Wait, what?
Anchors or Anchors?
Anchors, yeah.
Anchors. Okay, anchors. Okay. I could use anchors too.
The actual VR rig itself. The player
The
rate.
reason why I tried to use the laser is because I was trying to have the right direction, the directly. Anyway, so I add the game object, I enable it because it's invisible. That's pretty much it. And I always have some debugs, at least to know if something is happening. Like I just check how much child this have. Yeah, it's just debug. It doesn't matter.
So Nevro, what's a great technique to debug using bolts in Somnium World?
Great technique.
Like the console is, should I use like a Text Mesh Pro and use that?
I really love Text Mesh Pro, and I'm working on. I've used on Teleport something new. This here. It's the print line. You remember the print line? I just change it a little and add a prefix. So this technique of debugging is nice. I will just simplify it. Okay, so I have my Text Mesh Pro component here. That is a variable. And I set all this. So this you can cascade this in infinitely. Each one is a new line of debugging. So
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah.
the text represent all the final text. So the first of the cascade have empty, and in the line you can add your code that come by here. For example, when I test, I always do a check. You know, testing without checking have no. I mean, there's no sense of testing if you don't check what is happening. You know. So instead of crossing my fingers and saying, please work, please work, please work, and then it doesn't work and you have no idea why, I do checks. So for example, I check the collider name to be sure it was the right one. Check the root name. Doesn't really matter. It's the name of the avatar. Rigid body pointer to know if it's null or don't mind the word pointer. Just to check if the rigid body was null or not. Null. And I just enter any errors here. Errors coming from this. Try catch is an error handler. If any error happen in the try line, so everything here. First of all, if there is error, it will stop and teleport here. And then it will go catch. Catch will set the thing purple. We'll put the error code in this variable, and my error code go here. By default, error code is no error. You see? So that's how I debug. I will probably give this to people, but it's just this. So you see how interesting is? Imagine all those 4 blocks everywhere here. It would be so messy. But now it's clear. I can set up the prefix. Oh, by the way, there's an important thing in Super Unique. You cannot access variables from the top level here. This is top level. This is inside the super unit. You cannot access the variable. So you always have to give him the variable.
If I use a scene variable.
Doesn't work. A scene, yeah, it will work. But it's not a good practice.
Yeah.
It's very, because if you have a duplicate of this script, it will ask, it will act, it will have a very unpredictable behavior. So I normally, normally scene variable here should be used for global config, in my opinion. So I don't know. Something that I know it will be accessed only once. Like I don't know. Can we? Doesn't matter. Sky color, whatever. It's global. I will prefer avoiding using it for storing and accessing variables. You know, like communication between scripts. I will avoid this as much as possible.
So just another question. I noticed that you have you're doing at the end you're outputting the text to Text Mesh Pro set, and then you're using a variable called debug screen. What's debug screen?
Oh, it's just that. Look, I go on my variable list here on my game object. Wait. No,
Where are you?
it's this one. Sorry.
Do you actually have a screen?
Yeah,
of the
no. It's just a Text Mesh Pro.
Really,
Simply.
really cool.
So, okay, it's very simple. If you want to look at this, I have my Text Mesh Pro here, debug screen, type Text Mesh Pro, and I drag and drop here like this. Drag and drop the item here. Then look at this. I take that, I do Alt, and I drop. Set variable. No,
Really
sorry,
nice.
it's wrong. Just drag and drop. Get variable, and then Text Mesh Pro P text Mesh Pro text Mesh Pro dot text set. So this function take a Text Mesh Pro object and set the text. That's everything you need to know about Text Mesh Pro. All the rest is useless for debugging, at least. Maybe I can. Let me just open my my note. No,
Just another question.
what is note in French? One sec. Pince bait. That's so dumb. Never. No one used this expression. Okay. That could be nice. That could be nice.
It's his list.
Okay. What was your question?
So going back to what you were saying about thread, right? When we're running, bulk code, this is all locally, right? It's all being done locally.
Absolutely.
So I noticed there are times, like for example, if I'll use a scene variable, it'll work with everyone else. Like if I have a scene variable that's a boolean that's true or false, and I set it off, everyone else also is set off. Is that because like what's going on there? Is there...
Oh, I did not know. So they are synchronized.
I'm not sure. I have no idea.
If it's true, it's very interesting, because we could use this for doing stuff that I can't do. So can we do a test together, maybe today or tomorrow or whatever? This would be very, because I wonder if I can create a scene variable.
I mean, what I did is I had like this thing where you would pick up a sword, and I wanted to make sure that the player wouldn't, the guy who picks up the sword will be able to pick the sword up again. So I got that to work by using a graph variable. So I experimented a bit, and I used a scene variable instead. So when I went and picked up the sword, nobody could pick up the sword. So I'm surmising that, that's because
Oh wait,
of the scene.
how did you pick up the sword?
By interacting with the collider, hitting it, and then doing transform. Yeah,
Okay, how did you interact with the collider? It's important.
Touched it. I did the trigger. I ran into it. I walked into it.
Okay, because did you do any check to check what was interacting with the collider? No?
Yeah, no.
Okay, I may have an explanation. So I'm not sure they are synchronized because I think you use like fake synchronization, because in your local instance and in the other local instance, what happened is everyone saw your avatar going in this trigger. So for everyone, the script worked at the same time. You see?
Isn't that the same thing?
Not exactly. Okay, I call it fake synchronization because since your avatar is a reproduction of yourself, first of all, it doesn't have all the same component and game object inside. Some collider are missing. Second of all, important, because of latency and delays and reduction of quality of motion, you will not be exactly moving the same in each instance. and timing. So sometime you may interact with triggers, and for one person on 10 or 20, you won't even touch it, you know, because for a trigger to do good multiplayer things, you will need to. I mean, it's just impossible to reproduce exactly your movement at the same exact time, because someone could even go in the trigger first. For another person, it will be second. I don't know if you see what I mean. It's just unreliable. It's simple to do multiplayer this way, but it's not reliable. I mean, imagine you run against someone, and they both think they win because in their each instance they were first.
That would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Imagine it happened against Archer. Who will win?
You can't make a game like that. Yo, so can we go over Photon?
Yes. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
Drinking my cold, sad tea.
Really amazing stuff, man.
Okay.
Debug is really cool.
Give me 1 second. I think I have something already done. Oh, let's redo it. I know by heart. Okay. For change, let's use a sphere. Ball. We will synchronize its position between all the local instance. Oh, by the way, for everyone, it's very important to understand. I mean, I try to use a language for us to understand. So, first of all, let's draw something very ugly. Okay. It may not be the right way to call it, but I guess it will be fine. So let's say you are two player in a world, okay? Oops. Okay. Okay, let's call it okay, I have two players. I have Ultramoon and Baby Boon, okay? He's not there. Okay, so, no, I'm joking. Let's say player one and... So, you have player one and player two, okay? P1, P2, P1, P2. Okay, so this is P1 PC. This is P2 PC, okay? So they are inside a world. In P1 PC, his avatar is P1, makes sense. In P2 PC, P2 is his self, okay? But P1 in P2 PC is a reproduction of P1, right? Oh my god, I want to do a...
Is it like a representation that the server gives the client? Like you're not actually seeing them, you're just seeing...
It doesn't matter. This is more about philosophy, but what I mean is, okay, never mind the dots. I don't even know why they are there. Okay. So when you do interaction, when you move, everything you do is reproduce in the other local instance. It's a reproduction. This is a reproduction of this. Everything that I do is reproduced in the other, and it's the same. So I call it local instance of the word because it's almost exact copy. At least it's trying to be a copy. That's how we feel we are in multiplayer, because you bring all the action of someone in your local instance of the world. Got it? If I well understand, the word are only execute on our PCs. In Somnium Space side, it's only data is moving, positions and voice and all stuff. There's not even a simulation if I remember correctly. So I call it local instance because it's the only place that the game exists in those two PCs, with a reproduction of this one there and this one there, right? I think it's clear. So what I want to do is this ball will be like a player. This ball will be reproduced, right? How Photon, the library Somnium Space is using is called Photon Pun. Unity Asset Store. Photon Pun. It's Photon Pun 2 in fact. Photon Pun 2 free. This is all you need to develop multiplayer synchronized things. You install this. Good. So how Photon work? For at least for rigid bodies. Rigid sorry. Let's continue. Okay. So this ball, in fact, will act like avatars. The ball will be hosted by a player in his local instance and will be synchronized in another one. That's how it works. The difference between player and those dynamic objects is you can switch the owner. So if I play with the ball, okay, listen carefully. If I play with the ball, I will control the ball and send the reproduction to the other player instance. So to everyone. I need. You can. Go. Okay. So let's see, there's 3 instances. Just imagine there's 3 people in every name match. Whatever. So my ball is here and is reproduced there and there. Position, speed, scale, everything is reproduced. Like this. You see? Because I control it. If someone else interact with it, it won't be sync. I have the control of it. But if another player want to play with the ball, it have to request the control. So the control will swap to this player because he requested it. So let me show you how I did that. It's very simple, you will see. It's so simple, it's funny. Create empty. Synchronize ball. I put the sphere inside. Good. I add a script here. Bolt. Flow machine. New. No. I will just do embedded. There's 2 types of script. Embedded and macro. Macro will be saved on the hard drive somewhere you want. Embedded, it's saved inside the component. So embedded is fine if you don't want to save it. It doesn't matter. It will be saved anyway in the scene, in fact. The only problem is you cannot edit in real-time embedded script because they will be reset when you quit the real-time. Anyway, okay. Good. Sorry about that. So first of all, I will add a collider. No, first of all, I will play with photon. I will go on the sphere that have a collider and a rigid body. I will put everything on. I will put this on terrain, and this I will put on vehicle. Good, now it's set up. Photon view first. We need 2 components. photon rigid body view. Okay. By the way, you don't need to configure anything as in Photon. You install it. You may have a pop-up menu that always annoy you. Just tell me if it's annoying you. I will tell you how to avoid it. And then everything you need is those two scripts. By the way, if you don't intend to give the control to someone else of the ball for a few reasons, for example, first of all, if the ball is not controlled by you but by a script, you don't need you don't need more complicated stuff. I mean, or if the ball is controlled by an animation, doesn't matter. You don't always need script, but for us we will need it. So photon view script is identity with a unique identifier. 1 to 1000. The unique identifier must be the same in all local instance. It's how the other know it's the same ball. Ownership transfer, takeover, or request. I don't remember. I think it's request. This is important. If you don't set ownership transfer to request, the same person will always own the ball, so you cannot edit it or move or anything. It should be fine. Photon rigid body view. Teleport for large distance. I never tried it. I think it's for synchronization issues. Synchronize velocity and angular velocity. So it will synchronize the speed and acceleration on rotation. So this is all we need for that. Okay, let me explain to you. If I just let it like this and I upload, what will happen? By default, the first person that logged to the world will host it. So the first person that logged to the world will host and control every photon object that we add. If we want it to anyone that touched the ball, that control it, I can add a little script. So first of all, I will go to my script here. I will add a collider. Collider is a generic, you can use a generic container. Like instead of saying sphere collider, box collider, I can just use collider. For me, it's fine. Oops. Collider. Collider. Ah! Damn. I drag and drop the ball. I put this here. On collision, enter. So if someone touch it, it will own the ball, right? All this doesn't matter. Okay. Photon view dot request ownership. And we need to okay, just explaining very fast something that you may not have seen. If I want to access anything from a script, I need first to reference it on variables. For example, I need to access the sphere collider. Oh, it changed it to sphere collider. Weird. So I create a variable name. I set the type of the variable and then drag and drop. Same for my photon view. That is the script photon view. Photon view. Drag and drop the ball here. Now I can drag and drop this here. Photon view script. Good. So from my photon view script, I request ownership of this ball. And that should be it, I think. Not 100% sure. Let me just check very fast. Scanner, cast. No. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Request ownership. That's it. Since we configure the sphere with request ownership here, anyone can request it with this script, with this call. This is the test photon 2. I don't remember if it's takeover or request. Yeah, not sure. We can just duplicate the ball, sorry.
Ginebra,
Yeah.
would it be too much if you could quickly run through a quick review before we continue of what we've just done?
About photon? Sure.
Thank you.
So I recap about photon. First of all, you install it, photon pun 2, free, on Unity asset. I mean, you install the plugin, of course. Then I created a ball and a game object containing it. The ball is a sphere collider with rigid body. I did not put limitation on rotation or position. Yeah. Then I added the photon view script. Everything that is synchronized needs at least photon view. I set ownership transfer, at least request or takeover. I'm not sure. Maybe they are quite the same. Then I add the script photon rigid body view. It's the minimum to have a ball synchronized. Then on the parent of the ball, I add a script that have an input collider and the photon view. Both are item of the sphere. Let me explain to you. I could have done this differently. I could have just put the game object of the sphere and do get components, collider, get component, photon view. But I prefer always referencing directly, so I don't have to search for those things. In the script, on collision enter, which object we want that if we do collision we do something with. It's the sphere collider. So if we touch the sphere, that's what the script do. If we touch the sphere, do this. Photon view dot request ownership. And it's from this script exactly, the photon view of the ball. So the network identity. So we send to everyone that is on the game the command that we take the ownership of this ball. So it's our turn to control it. Good. So that's how you do an item. It could be anything else, by the way. Could be a cube or anything else. Something else. Remember, think about it. Okay, think about that. I'm not sure how we detect that we are the owner yet. Could be very interesting because if I know I'm the owner, this could be a PNG, by the way. Understand? Because think about it. What can we do a PNG right now, Ultraloid, without photon? Ultraloid?
Yeah. No, we can't. I mean, how can we do anything?
We can't, because if we do a PNG, they will never be synchronized. They will do different stuff at different places in each instance.
Right.
But with this, there's just one script missing. I'm not sure. Photon. There's some way to know if we are owning it or not. So if we are owning it, we can control the PNG, at least the position, for now. And if you are not owning it, we do nothing. So the owner of this object will execute the PNG script, right?
So just a question. looking at your flow graph, from what I gather, is it like becoming multiplayer when the collision is entered? So it's just
No,
settings
it's
it?
already multiplayer. But before this, let's say we want to play with these balls for some reason or interact. Let's say interact. No one can interact with something that is not owning, because if you're not, let's say control. No, yeah. If I don't control the ball, I will affect it, right? But it won't be synchronized. That's a very big problem. Only the person that own the ball can interact with it. So for everyone to interact it with the ball, you need to request ownership as fast as you interact with it. Do you understand?
Yeah, kind of.
There is some little delays too. So
So
it's
what is request ownership? Like, what does that mean?
okay. Let's go to the ball. There's a script photon view. This is the script that manage the identity of the ball and stuff on the network in the background. So by default, the first person that log in the world with on the ball. So
What does
the
that mean?
first person is the only one that can interact in any ways with it. Move it, accelerate it, or yeah, pretty much it for now. You see? So to transfer this ownership, I need to call the person that need it. I have to call this.
So when they're interacting with it, you mean they're interacting with it on a multiplayer level, right? Any change they make is seen by everyone?
If someone touch the ball, whatever he is, local, distant, whatever, this script is execute. And yeah, you got a good point. We have to be sure it's not a reproduction of you that touch it, but yourself. But for hands, it will work because we only have collider on hands in local. Yeah. That's interesting. But this is just basic knowledge. I mean, there's no point of doing this because you cannot push the ball. The only thing you can do is teleport it under it and we jump in the air like the cars. For now, at least.
Cool.
We could do a script that move the ball when you touch it, you know? For example.
Yeah, I did a similar thing where if you touched the ball, I added a force, so it made the ball bounce. So it felt like
Yeah.
it was like a volleyball. Can you do that? You using it with photon?
Of course you can. Yeah. I mean, Ultra Lord, once the rigid body is synchronized, you just have to interact with the rigid body itself. You don't even have to care about photon because photon is running in background. It's synchronizing the rigid body. You see? Right? No, yes, no?
Yeah, I'm still kind of like, what's this whole request ownership? Okay, I get the ball, that means I can interact with it.
Okay, think about it.
Interact with
If everyone was trying to move the ball at the same time without ownership, the ball would not know where to be, you know? There's too much
Right,
masters. It's like if 3 person is saying to you what to do, what are you supposed to do? So there's only one person that tell you what to do, where you should be, and the others are slave of the position.
So, oh, yeah, okay, I understand now. So basically, when I have ownership of it, that means if I move it in any way, let's say it's a rigid body, only I can move it because, you know,
Yeah.
I'm the one that's giving it the data.
Oh, just
right?
to be clear, it's not your avatar that owns the ball. It's your all instance. Every single script or everything that is on your instance, local instance, that affect the ball, they all own it. It's all your game that own the ball. You see, it's not your avatar. And it's the same in the other player way. It's not your avatar in their game that own the ball, but no, it's your game that own the ball. You see, it's all your simulation that own it because every entities can only be controlled by one simulation at a time, one instance. You see, You cannot have the same thing controlled twice. Everything, you will think about it, everything is done like this. You have, in fact, there's two ways of doing multiplayer. One, script or events are somehow executed at the same exact time. So there's no need of synchronization, you see? For example, time of the day. Or you reproduce something by sending it. Just the position, you see? It's two ways of doing it. Yeah. That's pretty much it for the ball locking, I think. I think I will explain to you the second photon interesting we can do. This one you will probably love it even more. Synchronization of animation. You can express your joy.
Amazing.
Oh my god. Okay. Let's put an animator here. I will just switch to my other scene because this is very confusing for me and for you, I think. Community, Creator Sunday, minimum coding word. Let's go there. Good. All clean. Okay, so synchronize animation. By the way, you can combine animation and by combining animation and rigid body, you can do a fully functional, almost fully functional PNG. You know, that will talk and walk and whatever. Let's create something to synchronize, like cylinder for changing. We don't need the rigid body because it's animations. Good. Animator Controller. Yes. So, I will need there's no need of script. No need of script. Photon view again, remember? You don't even need to have a request or takeover, it's fine. We won't, no one will take over this because the animation will be synchronized. Doesn't matter where it's executed. Photon, animator view. Okay. Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. So next step. Oh, I already have an animation. Interesting. Well, doesn't matter. Animation controller. Good. I put my animation controller here. This is good. It doesn't detect it, but it's fine. Animation controller. That's good. Animation cylinder. Oh, yeah. So, what I will do, okay, is... okay, first of all, let me explain to you what is synchronize. Because the animation controller is not synchronized, in fact. There's only one thing that will be synchronized. It's, in fact, two things. If you know animation, how it works, you have layers and parameters in animation controller. The two the only thing that will be synchronized, it's the layer weight here. Layer weight is how much you apply this animation or this pose, or doesn't matter. So you could you could, in fact, you could control something in percentage by distance without it being an animation. By script, you can just move this, and the thing could be like a difference between a color and the other, a distance. So instead of saying on off an animation, you can, if it's movement, you can put the movement at 50%. If it's a color, if it's setting the volume of something, you see, it's an interesting way of controlling a float value everywhere. The second thing that can be controlled, remember there's only two things: layers, weight. The first you cannot change it, and parameters value, float, int, and bool, right? Never use trigger. Doesn't work with photon. So let's see. I create a default state empty. It's mandatory. Sorry about that. And then I drag and drop the cylinder animation cylinder right here. Make transition. Condition of the transition. Let's just put something better than this. Parameter 1 sorry. Parameter 1 is a boolean. A boolean is a variable that can be true or false. Very simple. So how this animation work? From entry, we go to new state and we wait. If the condition parameter 1 come to true, we will switch to animator cylinder. Right now it's empty, so let's add something. Oh boy, there's some. Sorry, there is some person talking in Twitch. I will check. No, thank you. Okay. I just read fast what is on Twitch. Oh, it's a lot of stuff. Okay, I don't think there was question there. Okay, sorry about that. The animation. Once you put an animation on the animation controller, you can edit it in real time. So I will click on this here, animation cylinder. Double click maybe. Yeah. Now I click here. Okay, now I can edit it. So I press record. Wrong thing. Okay. I put the position for the 2. Then I go to 1 second. I don't know, I put this up, put this down. Then I go to 2 seconds. I copy the initial state. Now it's on loop. Good. You see? Easy. I need a condition to quit. That will be the same, but false. And if everything is perfectly loop, I don't need those weird transition here. So 1 and 0. 1 and 0. Okay, now what I need is something to trigger this. So let's add a trigger box. Trigger layer. No need for visual. Oh, let's let it. Oh, we will let it visual. Doesn't matter. And my bodybuilder. Does he have something? Capsule collider with body. I think he can interact with it. Good. Bodybuilder will be on player. Just to make sure it will work. Good. So, to trigger the animation, I will need a script, I think. Sorry, I'm reaching my limit of concentration. Okay, so as usual, on trigger, enter from, can I do that? No, I can't. Variable, can I do that? No. Trigger box. Collider. Drag and drop here. I can rename it, in fact. Rename. Now I can put it here. Good. If something enter in this area, we want to start the animation. So, okay, this part is very important. If you remember, the Animator Controller that is synchronized, only the weight of each layers and the parameters are synchronized. So if you change anything else and then this in the animator, it won't be synchronized. So the only way to play with those animator is to trigger is to change a parameters or the weight of a layer. So let's change the Boolean for true. I will do a on trigger exit 2. Oops, no, not 2D, not 2D. No. Trigger exit. Good. Now I need my Animator Controller. I think it's this one. Then I drag and drop here. You see, this object is already inside the same game object. So I could just do get component. Just like this. And it will use self. It means this.
You said this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's possible, but I prefer referencing it directly so I don't have to execute this search function. You see?
So does this have an impact if I have a lot of scripts? Will I begin if I'm always looking for game? You think that'll have an impact?
It's just a good practice to never use that because it's just accumulate.
Right.
And also, other thing, you know what your script is accessing, so it can tell you what it could be. You see? I will say it's important in Unity programming. Imagine a big spaghetti. Every object call every other object in your scene. It can be a mess very fast. And if you want to do a good game, it have to be as much modular as possible. For example, you don't call anything from everywhere, you know, because if you have link from everywhere that go everywhere, it's hard to remove a block without breaking everything. I won't explain more, but it's just a way of thinking. Sometimes you want to say, okay, this have to be independent, so everything is inside. For example, of this, for example, everything should be there, and it's independent of anything else. It's just a good way. It's just a good practice. It's like you remember the scene variable. If you start to using this, your code is not portable anymore because it's depending on what is there, you see. So yeah, and the more you will do this, the easier you can reuse those I call it module, the more you can reuse it. You can even sell, give to someone else. You see, it's very interesting way of coding, to think in blocks. Everything is a blocks. One purpose, one block. You see the idea? Okay, Animator Controller. You see Animator.play. Don't do that. Oh, we will do Animator set bool name value. We have to know what is the parameter name.
Hey,
Oh
I
my
have
god,
another quick question.
sorry, I just jumped. Yes.
Sorry. So if I at this point like wouldn't wanna like sync a animation, but just like a movement. So if I just would like kind of do like move that transform like in X direction or something.
You want an animation that
Would
moves
you also do
something
that?
on the X direction?
Yeah, or like if I move it like up and down, like if I just move it like on the Y-axis, you know, just like not like actually trigger an animation, but just like basically tell that block to move up and down via script. Would you also do that in that way, or would you do that? Yeah.
If you want to move an object to a specific
So
distance,
it's synchronized with other.
if you want to do something that is not always the same, like more, let's say, natural, maybe Animator is not the right way. Maybe you should control the rigid body and synchronize it. As his name, animation is more about starting an animation. Most of the time it will be starting a step of an animation. Everyone will be synchronized. Now you can go to next step. It can be, okay, start those lights to move this way. Okay, now turn them off, or now, you know, everything that is, for example, you could disable stuff with an animator. You could say, okay, every tree disable with the animator. You can say, okay, now make every bird disable, or like change the sound color. Everything that is simple and like doesn't depend on something else. Everything that doesn't depend on something else, animator is the way to go. If the animator, you want to set the sun, multiply by the watercolor, this is starting to be a little too complex for the animation, you see.
Okay.
This will be harder to do with animation. I even wonder if it's possible, probably. And even with rigid body, it will be complicated. But listen, it's very funny, but you could always move a rigid body, and the other will understand the position means something, you know? So you can send information just by moving an object that is invisible. Or, look at this. This is weird, okay? But my animator could be completely empty with only one layer like this that have nothing inside, you see? And I change the weight like this. But other people could read this value. For example, if you, let's say I just move a slider to 50%, okay? And you want every other instance to have the same thing at 50%, or anything else. Let's say you put the slider at 50%, and you want, I don't know, you want all trees to grow at 50%. So you could use layer, you could use this value here instead. That trigger or not an animation. What I mean is you could either way control an animation with the slider. The slider could control an animation like effect. The parameters is more for declenching it. But you can always read parameters, remember. So I can have, let's say 30 float here that it don't even start anything. I'm just using it as global variables, you see? So I can send information with this, bool, int, and float. You cannot put text, sadly, but at least we can use that. I don't know. I don't
All
know.
right, so
Yeah.
so basically, like moving any things around via just a script, like just like transform position, doesn't do anything. Like you do everything via animation, otherwise it's not synchronized. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, I think that's it. So if you want to make something more like a PNG, I will. Let's say we make a PNG, okay?
Bro, do you mean NPC?
Sorry, NPC. No, sorry.
I mean, like,
Yeah, sorry. Let's say
I
this
kind
guy.
of assumed you would mean that.
Let's say
It
this
makes
guy.
sense in the context.
Let's say this guy is an NPC, okay? Personally, I would add on it an animator for actions, and I would add it to him rigid body control. So he will have two photon thing, animator and rigid body. The rigid body mean if I move the avatar by script, it will be synchronized everywhere. But if I want every reproduction of this NPC to attack, for example, I can enable the attacking by animation or any other state it could have, like changing colors or just starting a conversation, for example. So for complex object like NPC, I will use the two component.
amazing, bro.
Oh, got it. Thanks.
And like I said, if I want to move a slider that controls something, I mean, the better way will be to just control a parameters and you read it everywhere. If the slider controls something simple, it can even be the animation. So for example, entity of light could be there, controlled by the slider, because since the animation put the intensity of light 1 and by default it's 0, it will be linear. But if it's Boolean, like enable or disable stuff, it will only work if the layer, the weight is at 1. Yeah, there's some limits. I hope it's clear for you. I will try to make available every already made script, so I want you to understand for editing, not for creating ideally. At least the basic stuff.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
Editing. Yeah, my memory suck. Good. I know we did not do the universal button today, but I'm at my limit right now. Maybe I can test. Oh, by the way, I called this when you were talking to me. So on trigger enter, put the Boolean to true. Animator controller, animator set Boolean, and put it to false when we quit it. Hoping there's no errors. Oh. This is working at least. Wonder if I took the right name. Huh. You see, at least it's working there somehow.
Maybe click on the cylinders.
Oh, there's an
Down-
error. transition in new state use parameter 1, which is not compatible with condition type.
What's the parameter setting? Boolean?
This tastes good, I think. I don't know, it's the first time I see that. Did I make a mistake with the
Boolean
set bool?
not compatible with both.
No, it's not the first time I do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
weird.
Unity is Unity at the end, you know.
Yeah.
You won't escape this. Oh,
There we go.
somehow it's working now.
What happened?
Yeah, when I quit this, it stopped. The animation like it never happened. It's working, I mean. So this parameter that I've changed will be synchronized. I mean, if you want to do something and you have no idea how, you can always ask us and we can help a little. I know, myself, there's some stuff that I have no idea how we will make it work. For example, the gun system and stuff like this. So that's pretty much it for today. I'm reaching my limit of concentration, I'm sorry. So for the universal button, I think I will just do it and probably put it on my website for free. I'm still thinking about it. Anyway, thank you for watching. And see you next Sunday. See you next Sunday. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay.
You did amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And even if
for the tutorial.
And never mind asking me for question. My purpose is to improve Somnium Space Guide and add so much stuff. So if you have question, I can make tutorials and documentations and stuff like this. I hope we all enjoy Bolt and do amazing stuff.
Yo, question. Never.
Let me just finish the script for the. Let me finish the